All right, Alexander, let's talk about our favorite economist, Paul, Paul Krugman. Let's talk about the economic situation in Europe, and it looks like Mr. Krugman has had a revelation. What do you call it? A come to Jesus moment is I guess the expression.
Yeah, revelation. Yeah, absolutely.
He's finally realized that things are not going too well, I guess.
No.
Is that correct?
It is absolutely correct. I mean, he's now worrying about the fact that there might be a shortage of firewood. I'm not sure whether this is how to take this, but that there is a genuine and intensifying energy crisis in Europe, and that is unequivocally true.
And what's his remedy?
He doesn't.
What does he say is the solution?
He doesn't appear to have one, and that's really remarkable. Nor does anybody else, apparently. No one in Europe has come up with anything that remotely amounts to a plan for how to deal with this problem. There's a lot of people, holding their hoping that the winter isn't going to be too cold. Perhaps maybe the gods will smile, and maybe like last year we will have a warm winter. I would say that the weather here in London has been very changeable over the last few weeks. So sometimes it's been cold, sometimes it's been hot. It's been a typical September weather. But the meteorologists, for what it's worth, are predicting a cold winter. But no one has come up with a plan. The EU has come up. They're saying that the EU is now recommending that EU countries reduce their energy output by 10%. I mean, I don't think people understand what a huge cutback in energy use that is. But at the same time that they're doing that, they're busy providing subsidies to energy consumers, particularly households, so that they're not crippled by energy costs. Now, I mean, in Britain, of course, is not, in theory, part of the EU anymore, but, they're talking about $140 billion, more money that was provided during the 2008 bailouts. I mean, at least comparable to what we saw during the lockdown period. Anyway, more and more people are now making the very same point that we made in our previous videos, that all that's going to do is going to support demand for a product, gas, which is in increased short supply. And come December, when the EU is going to cut itself off from Russian gas, from Russian oil as well, all of these problems are going to get worse. So what is the plan here? You're going to support demand for products, gas, oil, which it's becoming increasingly clear you don't have in anything like the quantities that you need. I don't know what they're going to do.
Well, they do have some kind of solutions, I guess. Let me throw out there the solutions that Van der Crazy has suggested. Gas price caps.
Yeah.
Van der Leyen, along with the Prime Minister of Belgium, the Crow, they've actually even taken it further, and they've said gas price caps, not on Russian gas only, but on all gas.
Yeah.
Qatari, US, LNG, everything across the board.
Yes.
They've said that centralization of the electricity,
yes,
the way electricity is priced,
yes,
centralization there, and protesting. No protesting, I guess, would be the second layer of all of this. Try to curb the protesting, and of course, the hope strategy that Zelensky wins and the EU ends up in Moscow controlling Russian energy resources.
Yes.
I guess it sounds kind of crazy to say that, but I really do believe in their head this is something that they're hoping for.
Well, I think that's exactly
definitely
right. I
the price capping and the centralization is part of the. This is something that they're very keen on.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a bizarre reversal, by the way, to just taking your last point, to what we saw at the start of the war. When we had the war, when the war began, the expectation was, that Ukraine would lose, or at least that was what the narrative was. But we would counter that by this economic war, which would level the Russians. Now, what's happened is that they're now hoping that Zelensky's actually going to win the war, because it's becoming increasingly clear that economically they're losing the economic war against the Russians. So it's a complete reversal of what I suspect a lot of them were expecting in February. But let's talk about these energy price caps. You're putting price caps on something which is in short supply. You're also trying to centralize. But of course, centralization runs problems, because you see, you have a country like Spain, which is independent, which has, gets its energy, most of its gas from somewhere else. The government in Spain is going to have to come and tell its own people, well, we may have enough gas ourselves, but you've got to share some of this with Germany. So that means we've got to lower our living standards. This at a time when many people in Spain, of course, will remember how back at the time of the 2008 crisis, Germany was absolutely implacable in forcing very severe austerity on Spain. So there's going to be lots of repercussions from this. But the key point to understand is that if you impose price caps, if you say gas, oil prices are capped, if the item is in short supply, and you are sustaining demand by imposing these price caps, then as night follows day, and every economist is saying this now, you're going to get energy shortages. You're going to get blackouts. And there's already talk in Britain where Liz Truss has gone for energy caps and supporting energy prices, providing financial support to consumers in a huge way. There is now growing concern with it amongst economists, amongst business leaders, amongst all sorts of people. First of all, that this is unsustainable in itself, but that financially unsustainable. You may notice, the pound is falling in value as the euro is, but also that it will inevitably and in time lead to blackouts. And the political effect of blackouts in Britain and indeed in Europe is going to be significant. I mean, it's in Britain especially, there's a sort of folk memory of blackouts from the 1970s. We used to get them repeatedly in the 1970s as a result of energy problems at that time. And it was part of that sense, it reinforced that sense of malaise in Britain, which eventually led to the rise of Margaret Thatcher. So if it happens again now, it will solidify a feeling in Britain that the country is in deep crisis.
Well, let me paint the narrative as to how things are going to shape up. People are going to be asked by van der Leyen all across Europe, to pay 3, 4, 5x more for their energy needs.
Yeah.
But they're going to have blackouts.
Yes.
That's going to be the compromise that people are going to be asked to make, on top of everything else.
I agree.
They're going to have to go through inflation and all those things.
Yeah.
What do the people end up doing in this situation? What happens next?
They will protest, there will be strikes. The EU authorities are very clear about what they're going to do. They're going to use the fist of police repression, which is very well organised nowadays in Europe, and they're going to try and keep it all under control in that way. And I think we have to be, clear with ourselves. Yes, there's going to be a major economic crisis in Europe. Things are going to get a lot worse. But they're not going to change course. They never do. They never have.
Well, Annalena Baerbock said as much, didn't she?
Absolutely, yeah.
It's very interesting what you said, just to wrap up the video, where you said that things have reversed. At first, the EU was saying we're going to lose the war, there's no doubt about it, but we're going to win the economic part. And now they're saying, you know what, we're going to hope. We're hoping that Zelensky pulls this through and he wins the war because we're getting crushed on the economic side of things. And then you have Annalena Baerbock's statement a couple of days ago in her trip to Kiev, which to me kind of proves that point, in that her statement was, I don't care how much Germans are going to suffer. I don't care what they think. I don't care what they're going to go through. I don't care how they vote.
Yeah.
I just don't care, was her statement.
Yeah.
I got to get to Kiev and make sure that Zelensky is going to win. You know what I mean? Yeah. It was that kind of, that was kind
Absolutely.
of the situation.
Absolutely. And of course, one successful Ukrainian offensive against an undefended area has given them even more hope that that's what they'll be able to do. So, you know, this offensive that Ukraine pulled off in Kharkiv is going to have very grim consequences for the people of Europe, because it's going to stiffen even more the determination of Europe's leaders to see this thing through, as they think, to, you know, bring about the collapse of the government in Moscow, and the fact that the European people in the meantime are going to suffer grim consequences. Well, that's expendable in order to achieve that desired outcome, which has become an obsession.
Yeah. It's an obsession, yeah. And they're going to tell the European citizens, just stick with us just a couple of more months.
Yeah, exactly.
A couple of more months.
Exactly.
Stick to the plan. That's what the European leaders are going to say anyway.
Exactly.
Okay, theduran.locals.com, and go to the Duran shop. 10% off. Use the code. Good day. Take care.